Greatest form of love is discipline. We need a villain in our life. We need an adversary.
Even if that villain is us. So I think we'll jump into some of the questions here. Some of them are, somewhat market based. And I want to start with this one from Miguel. And Miguel is asking how he can avoid over trading when he loves trading.
So remember, trading is about discipline. The greatest form of love is discipline, self discipline. So if you love trading, you need to love yourself enough to go, I'm done, enough to know when to stop. Because a lack of discipline is a lack of control, and you cannot do anything, whether it's trading or being in a relationship or anything like that, successfully if you don't love yourself enough to know when to stop, because it's not good for you. Because now you're not loving trading, right? Now what you've done is you've loved trading more than you love yourself. And that can't help us in the long run.
I think that's a wonderful answer. A lot of folks that I've talked to over the years, they're so enamored with the activity of trading, getting in and out of trades. And my suggestion was always to focus on the love of understanding markets and ourselves. The more we can understand markets and the more we can understand ourselves, the better off we're going to be in the long run, and consistently doing things that are in our best interest. Miguel, before you do anything, before you even take a trade, ask yourself verbally, is what I'm about to do in my best interest, or am I just doing this because I need something to do?
Right. If you're looking for a
Wonderful answer,
dopamine hit, Miguel, this is not the way to get it. Right there, I mean, it's just now you're doing it to feel good, to get a hit of something that feels good, and so it's just not the wisest thing to do, because we love trading, right? I love therapy, but I don't do it every day. I do take some time off, and that's not all I do every day. I referee soccer, so we all need to know when enough is enough for us, because then it becomes playing with addictions and then just trying to get a hit, and then that's when you play in that space of entering revenge trading or feeling like you can't stop. Right. So we don't want to play in that space. So I tell people, be careful of the energy that you play in with yourself, because you can lie to yourself and start believing the lie. And I don't want anyone to do that. It's not healthy.
Thank you, Jinnie. Um, Augusto has a question. How do we deal with those trades that don't hit the profit target just by a few ticks and then go all the way back to the stop?
Well, I don't really know. All I can say is, because I don't trade like you guys trade, all I know is that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And the question becomes, what did you learn? What did you learn about
Thank
why
you.
you missed it in a few, ticks? I mean, I have traders, my most of my clients are prop traders, so when that money's gone, it's gone. So they have to learn very quickly, what happened. But if you learn nothing, then you're going to do it again. And sometimes we learn and we still do it again, but we do it differently, right? The loss decreases over time, and sometimes it increases pretty quickly, and it just goes away altogether. But it depends on your head. I mean, are you trying to learn, or are you trying to be right? Right? There's a big difference. A lot of people will say, I did this and I did that. And it's like, well, are you mining for your own data? Like, are you truly learning, and putting into practice, hey, I might have missed something. If you are insisting that you're going to be right, and then you're trading out of ego. And remember, ego's job is to keep things in homeostasis, meaning it doesn't want anything to change because it can control this thing, right? And so when we start to say, oh, I want to learn, what you're saying is, I'm going to challenge my ego and myself. And if you don't really understand the ego's job is not to grow, it's to keep things the same, then what you understand is that the ego is not trying to learn. The ego, right? You're humbling yourself. You have to be very humble if you're going to trade, because you are going to be wrong most of the time. You're just hoping to make money as you do it. right? Because you're learning. If you're not learning because you need to be right, that's going to be a problem. So I would say, what did you learn? And are you truly open to learning? Because if you're not, you're going to always miss it by a few ticks. If you're like, hey, I know what I'm doing, I did this right, so I just want the outcome based, it's like there has to be process that's balanced with the outcome. I know a lot of you are going to be looking for that outcome base. Did I make more money? Did I lose less money? Did I stop losing? It's like, well,
Hmm.
there's a process that you have to be engaged into. There has to be a balance. If you put more into the process and not into the outcome, you're not going to get what you're looking for. Vice versa, same thing. If you're like, hey, I just want to make money, it's like, well, it's going to be a minute because you're not learning and you're not thinking.
Just thinking about the money. Just thinking about the money.
And the money is
So
a reflection of your inner state.
it's the ego that tries to keep things the way they currently are. If you're
Right.
trying to go past your previous limits of trading or size in trades or the how long you're staying in trades, it's the ego that's trying to keep things normal, trying to avoid change.
Right.
It's then that makes it the ego that makes it difficult for people to change, whether it's even for the better or even for the worse. It just wants to keep things as they are.
That's right. Because if I change, then that means the ego doesn't look at it as I'm growing. The ego looks at it as I'm wrong. And now I have to adapt all of these things. Right now, remember in quantum physics, if one thing in the system changes, everything has to change. And that's a lot of work to have everything else change, especially if you don't want it to change, or if you're lazy, or if you're like, oh no, we can just keep it this way. Well, guess what happens? As change occurs, the more that you resist that change, the more that you fight that, the more change that happens, because now you're going to be further behind and you're going to try to play catch up. But if you're flexible, if you're open to change, then the
Mhm.
things that you have to learn will come so much easily. And then the ego begins to grow and it goes, oh, this is part of how we get more of what we want. So you have to train the ego to let go. If you have grown up in a home, or if you had a life that was really merit based, it's like do A, B, C, and D, and it's laid out for you, and this is what will happen, you're going to have a harder time. If you think that, hey, I just have my plan, I got to follow it, and it's just like that, it's just my plan, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, right? Remember, when you're in the practice room, it's like I'm going to tell my age, you guys. So when I took driver's ed, I know we had I don't know if you guys had the trailer and you had the machines in there, the virtual. Yeah, that's
As
how old I am.
simulators.
Yeah, okay, right. And so everyone did great in there. You got on the on the road, and then they have the brake on the passenger side for a reason, right? Because there's other drivers and you don't know how they're going to react, and so you have to defensively drive. So you might know the rules, but applying those rules are so very different, and it's not going to be the same. You have to learn how to think dynamically. That is what trading is. It's a dynamic way of thinking, and you have to show up in it, all of you. It is not just about a plan. The plan is the plan. You execute that plan. And if you're emotionally driven, if you're emotionally closed off, if you're reactive, that plan is not going to look the way you imagine it looking, because you are the driver of that plan. You are implementing the rules of that plan. You are following that plan. Anything that takes you to the left or the right will either keep you going on that road, or it's going to have you doing all kind of really interesting things, and it's not going to be helpful.
So the ego is really the fear of the unknown. Anything that's unknown, we don't know the outcome from. It's the ego that's protecting us from that.
That's right. And so now you guys are sitting in front of your computer trading. You have no clue what's going to happen, in the next,
Hmm.
30 seconds, and you're just hoping for the best. And you're going, mm-mm-mm, and you're closing your eyes like a 2-year old. You can't see me. You can't see me. It's like, well, it's still happening. It's still going to happen. Eyes
Hmm.
wide open. And you have to deal with that, and there's the anxiety, there's the terror, there's the frustration, there's the anger, there's a confusion, and these are all of the dynamics that are the curveballs that are thrown your way. And if you don't know what good thing those emotions are trying to help you do, you will get distracted and you will sink. That is why we have to understand our emotions for us, where they come from, and what good thing it's trying to teach us, what good thing it's trying to help us do, and then give it a new job. We're not getting rid of it, we're not firing it, we're promoting it, but we have to know what it's trying to do so that way we can promote it to a position that's more helpful. So,
All right. Thank you for that, Dr.
that was a
Jinnie.
great question. Mhm.
Here is, I think, a question that I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of. And this one comes from Chris. He was doing well trading until he got laid off. Has a job. He had other income, but he was doing well trading as well. But since then, he can't seem to help but self sabotage, and it feels like he's lost all his confidence in his trading strategy that was successful up to this point. How would you recommend he work on getting back on track and building that confidence up to where it used to be?
I could be wrong because I don't know him. I'm just going based on the
Hmm.
question, the scenario. And this is what I'm going to say based on what you shared, because it could go left or right. There's some pieces that could be missing too. But it sounds like it's all the eggs are in one basket now. See, when we're trading and we have a regular, income coming in, it's a steady flow of income.
Hmm.
It's like an entrepreneur, right? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you and you're married or you're in partnership, the partner of the entrepreneur needs to have a consistent income. That gives the entrepreneur the courage to go out there and try all of this wonderful stuff because we have a way of having the bills paid. We know the bills are going to get paid. But when that is taken away, you've now introduced a dynamic of uncertainty that's greater than the threshold that we're used to, that we're willing, the risk that we're willing to take. And it sounds like that might have been what happened to this young man. Right. So he may have had that 9 to 5, right? That steady income. And now I can go and play. It's like being in the practice room, right? When I'm trading
Hmm.
or being in that simulator for driver's ed. Because I know it'll be fine, right? But
Right.
when this is it, this is everything. Now everything rides on this trading, that, right? That is the unknown. Because I don't know. See, now this isn't for fun. This is for real.
Right.
And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure because now we wonder, okay, if I make this mistake or if I lose this, now your focus is going to be so placed on the loss because you got mortgages or a mortgage and bills and tuition and what have you and car
Hmm.
notes. You
Hmm.
can't afford to lose because you've already lost a huge chunk of money. The mindset is that I've already lost. Now remember, the brain, whether it's real or imagined, if the brain has experienced it, that is real. So the loss of a job is a real loss. It is a huge loss because it's the loss of not just control, but of comfort and safety and security. So I would say if you want to get back that confidence, either you find another 9 to 5 or you work with a therapist and help you to grieve that loss so you can get recentered because that will knock you off your pins. And if that's not something you've dealt with, it's going to show up in your trading. Because whenever you go from I'm doing really great and then something happens to nope, not so great, that thing that you lost was holding that greatness. So you have to find a way to work through that. And that's in trading, that's in a marriage, that's in whatever. Okay. And I'll give you
Very
guys a formula too, if you want.
perfect.
So, look, this is for life, whether trading, a relationship, a partnership, whatever. If you noticed that your life was smooth and easy, and then all of a sudden you got a little confident or whatever, or you're feeling really good, or maybe you got cocky. I'm not saying this is the case for this one person, but just generally speaking. And then you left that thing or that thing has left you or you've lost that thing and now all of a sudden your life starts to spiral down. Here's a rule. I didn't make it up. It's just a thing. The thing that you lost, that you walked away from, that walked away from you was holding it, acted as a self object for you and you did not know it until it was gone. It allowed you to do and feel the way you did and felt before you lost it, before it was gone. And that is how oftentimes people will gauge how valuable something was. Hence the phrase, you never know what you got till it's gone.
Till it's
This is
gone,
why I
right?
tell people, do not take anything for granted, because once it's gone, sometimes it's really hard to replace it, if you can replace it at all. This is why saving when we're working and trading is so important. It's not 6 months, it is like 6 years, because we become accustomed to a lifestyle, and it might not be so easy to replace the thing that left. So that's the formula.
That's excellent. So, I mean, losing a job while you're actively trading, kind of takes some of that safety net from underneath you away, but it's also a loss. I mean, didn't even think about kind of looking at it that way. It's like losing a family member, or, I mean, when you have that sense of loss, it is certainly going to do something to change your decision making. I lived off trading profits for years, but so many other traders, including myself, found other ways to create income streams. And so the more income streams you have, the more, I think, confident you are in actually trading. And it is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you make some money trading, save, get into something else that's going to create other income streams, and hopefully you can just continue to trade well, and build your empire, if you will.
I love that. Yes. It's not, some people can do multiple streams of income, and some people, they just have other things or activities that break up the monotony and the heaviness of having everything placed in one space. And so
Hmm.
whatever that is for each person, is to be discovered by each person. But you're absolutely spot on. There's grief around a loss, especially an income, especially a threat to a lifestyle. Right, there's a lot that needs to be processed there that is not even related to trading. It just shows up
Hmm.
in your trading, and that is what I want people to appreciate more than they probably do. It's no different than sports. Sports gives everyone an opportunity to see the inner world of every athlete, what they're struggling with and what they're excelling at and what they're feeling great about. Trading does the same thing, except for it's more private. It's just
Hmm.
you and that screen.
Hmm. You're, I'm sure, very familiar with the term being on tilt. How does a trader avoid trading on tilt?
What is
You
that? I'm
mentioned
not
discipline
familiar with that.
earlier.
What is
That's one of
being
the
on
things.
tilt?
Let's say you've started the trading day and you've had three consecutive losses. This is something that is a trigger for me. I might become angry or emotional, and when I become angry and emotional, I'm not really cognitively thinking about the next trade I'm going to make. I'm thinking about making that money back. So it's revenge trading or trading on tilt. Some people will even just absolutely capitulate and say, the heck with it. I'm just going to put a 10 lot on. And if I lose the account, I lose the account. How do we stop doing that? First thing that I learned over the years was recognizing when you get to that level, and at the very least taking a break, walking away for a little while. Back then, it was on the trading floor. I would have to walk off the trading floor, go outside, breathe in and out, do something to put myself back to center. Jinnie, I look at it like when you're on tilt, you're over here. When you're arrogant, you're over here. But we want to be here in the center when we're
Right.
trading. Because if you're
So
not centered, it can be very difficult.
I'm gonna say this. Trading is just it's the same as life. This is why I love the therapy piece. When you cannot move and stay in the present, and you're on tilt, as you say, right?
Hmm.
And even when you're arrogant, that's the future focused, right? Being on tilt, it sounds like you're living in the past. You can't let this go, right? That's the ego being offended, right? Remember, eternity is the present. Every moment is eternity, right? When you're present in each moment, the past, it's what's done is done. You cannot undo it. Staying back there is not going to change the fact that you lost the last three trades. It's not going to change the fact that you are unhappy with that loss. It's done. You cannot undo it. What you can do is stay present in the focus. And this is where that first question, where I loved it, is that discipline. You have to have enough discipline to say, I can't do anything about that. What did I learn? And you have to be able to do that quickly. You have to learn quickly. If you are learning at a snail's pace because this is new to you, then you're going to have to slow down, because you have to learn how to not just even articulate what just happened to yourself, but you have to understand, like, what was that? I can express what happened. I lost. But why? The why, right? When you're trading, you are a student of yourself, because you're the one that's executing your plan. It's not anybody else. It's you. You have become the ultimate student of you. And if you don't know what just happened to you, why it happened, and how to stay in this moment and use all of that to decide what you're going to do in this moment, not in the future. Future hasn't happened because you haven't done anything in this moment. So when people get really cocky, I always say, oh man, you're building a really high pedestal for yourself, aren't you? Because as soon as
Mm-hmm.
that sucker gets bumped, you're going to fall hard.
Mm-hmm.
Staying present in each moment keeps you from being depressed and anxious, and it keeps you from being cocky and just kind of above it all. Being present in each moment means I'm feeling what I'm feeling. This is data. This has happened before. This is what that means. This is what I'm going to do with that. And that requires a lot of freaking discipline, a lot of self-love.
Is that similar to to building a muscle? I mean, when we start to sense ourselves getting a little tilted, I always talk about it like it puts venom in my veins. And if I have venom in my veins, then I'm not thinking clearly. And like you say, I'm not in the here and now. I'm still angry about something that happened in the past. Do you have any um, maybe exercises or things that traders can do to alleviate or get rid of that venom in a faster way? I know everybody has their own way. They may take a walk, they may do some push-ups. Just find a way to kind of reset their psyche and then get back into trading. Is there anything you can suggest that might help traders with that?
So this is what I tell people. That's a Rohan question. That's a CVT question, constructs, vaults, and tanks, right? We have these constructs about who we are, how life works. And we have these feelings, right? These vaults. And then we have these tanks that are just deep in the unconscious, the bedrock of what motivates us and pushes us. And what I tell people, what you're going to do is different from what other people might do. But the whole point of your question that you also answered is you have to break the energy. You have to break the energy. When you get so stuck in the past and you can't let it go, you need to get up and do something. I don't even care what you do. I could not care less what you choose to do, but you have to break that energy because you are kind of possessed by yourself. You are stuck in this cycle and you're going down fast. So you have to get up and you break that energy. That's the reason we tell people to get up and do something, to walk away from something, because you're stuck in this silo and there is nothing new that you're going to learn. There is nothing good that will come from it. But when you walk away, you break the energy. So when you were learning math in school, right, and you're looking at a problem, I can't figure it out, get up and walk away. Go do dishes. And then as you're doing dishes, and then you go back and you go, that's it, right? Because you've walked away from it. You're not in that energy. So people, I really, encourage you all to think about all of those old school wives' tales, sayings that you heard growing up, because those are all very true. And you are bombarded with those when you are trading. Every fear, every shadow comes up. Everything that you have been running from, avoiding, or maybe did not even know was there, or been in denial about being there, will pop up. And it is your job to face it, heal it, work through it, whatever you want to call it, so you can make you some money. And by the way, that is in every career. Whenever you get ready to level up, this is what will happen. You can only go as far as you will face yourself.
Thank you very much. It's kind of like what I tell people is, When you're upset, you're angry, you take some losses, you get to a level of losses where you know that you're going to start to get triggered. Go take a walk the dog, have a ham sandwich, a glass of milk, do something just to kind of reset. And I've noticed that even just doing crossword puzzles, if I get stuck, if I walk away for a little while, I'll come back and then I'll find my way through it. It's so true. You get what is it, too close to a tree to see the forest.
And I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna give you guys a question to ask yourself honestly when you get to that point. And say you just can't walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is going on with you, you can't even bring yourself to walk away. I want you to ask yourself, what part of me is feeling ashamed right now? Why am I embarrassed? What part of me is
Mm.
embarrassed? Because the only reason we don't walk away, or the only reason we stay committed to doing the same thing that we know is hurting us, is because we need to be right, right? So if if I'm wrong, what does that say about me? What does that mean if I'm wrong, if I didn't get this right? There's some shame there, and people think shame is a normal emotion or feeling. Shame is completely unnatural. That's not a thing. That is something we are taught. If we're wrong, then that means dot dot dot. So I want you to ask yourself, if you can't get up and physically walk away because you're so invested and committed to being right in that moment, what part of me is feeling embarrassed? Why am I
Mm.
ashamed? What am I ashamed of?
Very
Oh, but
interesting.
and I'm going to tell you something. And this is what a lot of my clients will say to me. They'll go, because I'm effing stupid. I effed up again. See? And then my dad was right. My mom, everybody said I couldn't do it. And now, right? I failed. No, you lost
Proved
money
them
on a
right.
trade. That's
Right.
part of the game. But if we have these faulty thoughts that we, right, are unaware of, or that we believe, remember, whatever you believe, you will always be right. Your thoughts, your beliefs determine your reality. Other people may see something very different, but it doesn't matter what they see. It is what you believe. And you might not even know you believe that.
Jenny,
And
do you
that's
find
the
that inner dialogues? I mean, I think everybody's they're probably their own worst critic, and I'm really really bad about that. I have some inner dialogue that just becomes vicious from time to time. Do you find that most of the inner dialogue that we're telling ourselves is an out and out lie? Things are never as bad as we think they are. We're never as bad as we think we are. Do you find that people that use exercises like talking back to those inner dialogue, to those inner voices that are sabotaging us, helps us kind of put them at bay? You Every time you hear that, you talk back to it and say, I'm not the worst trader in the world, or you know I'm a good trader, or yes, I am good enough. All of those things. It sounds like affirmations. Does that help when we kind of get buried in our own negative thoughts?
no. And it's yes and no, and I'm going to tell you why. And I want everyone to just stop writing because this is being recorded, and you can go back and play it back. But I really want you to be present in this moment and hear exactly what I'm about to say. Affirmations, they only work when it's done a certain way. Remember, I just said, whatever you believe, you'll always be right. It will always be true. I don't care what
Mhm.
anybody else says to you. I don't even care what you say to you. Because in quantum physics, the question that I have for you, Hoag, is, can two objects coexist in the same place?
No.
No. So if I tell myself I'm a great trader, but the original faulty thought, or the original thought is, you're a crappy freaking trader, you're a crappy person, you're a failure. If I tell myself, no, I'm a good person, I'm a good trader, which thought is going to stick?
The one you're thinking.
The one that was there first. This is why affirmations don't work, because all you've done was put something on top and it's not going to stick, because the thing that was there first is deeply seated. It was there first. So if
Well,
you
how do we
want an
get rid of it?
affirmation to work, right, you have to identify the faulty thought. You have to identify where it came from. You have to heal it, release it, and then you can replace it. That is when an affirmation will work. So if you're telling your, that's like a woman going, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. And she looks at herself every morning. I'm successful, I'm smart. And she does that in the mirror every morning for 5 minutes. And then she feels great for an hour and a half. And as she goes out into the world, boom, little things rub at her or him. And boom. And then she's back to, well, maybe I'm not. Well, he's smart. Oh, right? Then we are defeated. And then we feel even freaking worse. How crappy is that? I started off feeling good, believing that I can talk myself out of something I already believe. And then it doesn't work. Now you feel 10 times worse than you did, but you might as well have just stayed with it. Because
How
at
do we?
least now you don't feel like a bigger failure for going back to believing this thing again or feeling this way again.
So all those negative thoughts, feelings, ideas, they all have to be really uprooted.
Yes. And
How
people,
do we do
and I
that?
keep saying, people need to appreciate stuff more. People need to appreciate the power of their mind more, because if they appreciated that more, they would realize there is nothing that they cannot do if they sat down and face themselves, the truth that they hold about themselves. And it's never pretty. I still face the truth about myself, and it's all bad. It's just not as bad as it used to be, and it's not as many of them. But if
Like,
you have the courage to face those parts of you that you're ashamed of, that you're afraid of, life goes by so much more smoothly for you. It doesn't mean bad things don't happen. It just means that you're ready for them and you can face them with more courage, with more confidence, and you make it look easy. People who have done something 20, 30, 40 years, they make it look easy, not because it was always easy, but because they're fine with facing those parts. They're not running anymore. They're not looking for something out here to save them. If you're looking for trading to make you a multimillionaire without you having to struggle a little bit with yourself, you're in for a rude awakening. And that's in any industry or career for that matter.
would
Trading
you
is not.
say? Sorry, Jinnie. I didn't mean to.
Nope, go ahead.
Would you say that, simply put, uprooting these negative thoughts, ideas, things like that, are something like, in a very simple way, is that something we can kind of bring into secondary functions? Like the first time we drove a car, we had to think about, okay, I turn this way to go that way, I turn this way to go that way, and I gotta, okay, that's the go pedal, that's the stop pedal, and which way do I turn the turn signal thing to go which way? And you got to think about all these things piece by piece. But after a while, you get better at it, and those things become kind of secondary functions. You already know how to do it. You've done it 100 times. Now you can just smoothly drive the car.
That's it. And the only time you will need to go back is for maintenance. Oil changes, the light bulb went out. Something is like, oh, this isn't working the way it's supposed to. And it's like, that's because you reached another layer. That's because you went down to a deeper level. And so now, yeah, you go in for your maintenance, boom, boom, boom. The same process. It's just that now you're exploring something you're unfamiliar with about yourself. That's what we call maintenance. But yes, in the beginning, it's about learning how to do this. It's about that exercise, right? That muscle that you didn't know you had. And so it's going to hurt. People come to me all the time. I have 4 weeks. I have 3 weeks. I had somebody say, I have 1 week to get this right. And I'm like, I cannot help you. Not the way you think I can. Because that is going to require a change in lifestyle, the way that you think about yourself. And that's, if you're over, 10, that's going to be a minute. If you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, that's going to be about 3. That's going to take you 3 minutes to figure that out and to get used to that. To get used to going, oh man, that was on me. That came back again. Okay. I think I told you, Hoag, when we were in the green room, Eddie said something and I said, you know what, Eddie, if I had feelings, that would hurt. Remember?
Right.
Feelings, of course. But the feelings that would have been hurt are evolved. I've healed those feelings. So I can be a lot more carefree. I can be a lot more easygoing. And it's like, oh, that was a good one. Right. And it's fun. But while I'm in that unhealed and hurt and self conscious and egoic state, it's going to always hurt. And that's how you know you're an ego. It hurts and you're running from it.
Thank you, Jinnie. I had to take a deep breath after that. um, we're getting a little bit short on time. One of the things that we hear about a lot, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about, is uh, when somebody's trigger shy. They see a setup, they've planned for this setup, and they just can't pull the trigger on it. Fear of the unknown, fear of loss, fear of feeling
Success.
stupid, all of those things,
Success.
fear
I'm
of
afraid
success.
of getting everything I said I wanted because I don't deserve it. Because if I live my life being a F up, now people are going to expect me to be successful. People are going to expect me to get it right. People, what am I going to do now that I've gotten it? Now that I know what to do, now that I'm happy, what if I'm still freaking miserable? What if I'm now a bigger jerk? Now people are going to expect me to be a better person than God for a freaking bid. Right? It's the fear of what comes with, oh, it worked. Because sometimes we don't even realize we've bought into, I am a screw up.
Mm-hmm.
I keep needing to prove myself to these people. Well, what if what if the plan worked?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you don't have anything to prove to anybody but yourself. But if you don't feel you're good enough because you're doing this for these outside reasons, for this validation, then who are you going to be doing it for now? So some people, we don't realize that we love to prove ourselves. We are codependent. We need a villain in our life. We need an adversary. And it's
Even if that
someone
villain is
else.
us. Even if that villain is us. I mean, it goes to so many different things, like your relationship with money, your self worth, your self esteem. How much do you think your work that you do is worth? One of the first time I walked on the trading floor with my shiny new badge on, one of the old guys said, "Hey, congratulations! You can make anything you think you're worth." I thought, wow, I never even thought of that before. And in the early years, I had to do a lot of work. I mean, I worked with a couple trading psychologists. I had to get myself in much better physical condition. I was working with a prop firm, and they demanded that I go work out 2 hours a day every day after work. So
Yeah.
I did that. They even had spies there, and if I blew off a day, they knew about it. But I got a much better physical condition and started feeling much better about myself internally from feeling better externally, and things changed for me.
Yeah.
What about the relationship with money? Some people think money is dirty.
Right. And it depends on how you were taught growing up, how you were raised, what you were taught about money. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy, blah, blah, blah. Except for, rich people were the reason you were poor and you wanted to be rich so you wouldn't be poor because you were tired of being poor. And so here you're caught in this catch 22. So if I do have money, then it makes me a bad person, a greedy person. But then if I don't have money, we're still struggling. And so it's this, the relationship you have with money. I encourage people, look at what you were taught consciously, unconsciously about what money means, about people who have money, what you were taught about the type of people they were. And I promise you, it will be a conflicting experience for you to not want to be poor, to not want to struggle, but then to also not want to be rich because you don't want to be like them.
Them, right, right. Also, something I had to deal with quite a bit in my early years. Do you think that people have the ability to get deep enough into their mind on their own? I mean, we know that therapy and all of that can certainly accelerate that. Is this something that people can start to do for themselves, or do we really need A lot of help. I guess it depends on the bowl of spaghetti we have in our brains, and how messed up we are. And we're all messed up to some degree. But there's self books. There's can people do it that way?
You can start that way. I've never seen anyone finish that way because you only know what you can know. We have blind spots for a reason.
Right.
And until, we look to the left or know to look to the left or know to look to the right, the only way we know that there's a car beside us is if we hit it. And by that time, it's an accident, right? So the things that we know about ourselves, we are allowed to know because we feel safe enough to know it. The things that we need to know about ourselves are the things that we don't want to know. Hence, that's why we don't know it. We've pushed it, we've split it off, we've done all these things to it because we don't want to know it. If we knew it, we would not be where we are.
Great answer. Great answer. Get started, everybody. Jinnie, that's why we have you here. And we are so lucky to have you here. We're running short on time. I can't thank you enough. Blessings to you. And we'll look forward to the next time that we have the wonderful opportunity to have you on again. And I think this has been just a great hour. I think you've helped a lot of people. I know you've helped me so much over the years, and just by the the little bit that I do get to hear from you and see you, I really appreciate it. We all really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to having you back again very, very soon. Look at you're getting a lot of love in the chat. A lot of folks. I think we touched a lot of people here today, and I know that in this they are going to find help. They are going to find a better way, and we owe that today to you, Dr. Jinnie Cristerna. Thank you very much.
All right, Hoag. Big kisses and hugs to you, Tim, Eddie, all of you guys. Big, big hugs.